Ladies and gentlemen, the following program features Charles Frederick Lindsley, assisted by Wesley Turtelot at the organ. Mr. Lindsley presents for your pleasure a ballad by Alfred Noyes entitled The Highwayman. This is a justly famous tragic ballad, full of swift, ringing music and filled with the indefinable magic of long ago.
The wind was a torrent of darkness among the gusty trees. The moon was a ghostly galleon tossed upon cloudy seas. The road was a ribbon of moonlight over the purple moor, and the highwayman came riding, riding, riding. The highwayman came riding up to the old inn door. He'd a French cocked hat on his forehead, a bunch of lace at his chin, a coat of the claret velvet, and breeches of brown doeskin. They fitted with never a wrinkle. His boots were up to the thigh, and he rode with a jeweled twinkle, his pistol butt a twinkle, his rapier hilt a twinkle, under the jeweled sky. Over the cobbles he clattered and clashed in the dark inn yard, and he tapped with his whip on the shutters, but all was locked and barred. He whistled a tune to the window, and who should be waiting there but the landlord's black-eyed daughter, Bess, the landlord's daughter, plaiting a dark red love knot into her long black hair. And dark in the dark old inn yard, a stable wicket creaked, where Tim the ostler listened. His face was white and peaked, his eyes were hollows of madness, his hair like moldy hay. But he loved the landlord's daughter, the landlord's red-lipped daughter. Dumb as a dog he listened, and he heard the robber say, "One kiss, my bonny sweetheart. I'm after a prize tonight, but I shall be back with the yellow gold before the morning light. Yet if they press me sharply and harry me through the day, then look for me by moonlight. Watch for me by moonlight. I'll come to thee by moonlight, though hell should bar the way." He rose upright in the stirrups. He scarce could reach her hand, but she loosened her hair in the casement. His face burned like a brand as the black cascade of perfume came tumbling over his breast, and he kissed its waves in the moonlight. Oh, sweet black waves in the moonlight. Then he tugged at his rein in the moonlight and galloped away to the west. He did not come in the dawning. He did not come at noon. And out of the tawny sunset, before the rise of the moon, when the road was a gypsy's ribbon looping the purple moor, a red-coat troop came marching, marching, marching. King George's men came marching up to the old inn door. They said no word to the landlord. They drank his ale instead. But they gagged his daughter and bound her to the foot of her narrow bed. Two of them knelt at her casement with muskets at their side. There was death at every window, and hell at one dark window, for Bess could see through her casement the road that he would ride. They had tied her up to attention with many a sniggering jest. They had bound a musket beside her, with the barrel beneath her breast. "Now keep good watch." And they kissed her. She heard the dead man say, "Look for me by moonlight. Watch for me by moonlight. I'll come to thee by moonlight, though hell should bar the way." She twisted her hand behind her, but all the knot held good. She writhed her hands till her fingers were wet with sweat or blood. They stretched and strained in the darkness, and the hours crawled by like years, till now, on the stroke of midnight, cold on the stroke of midnight, the tip of one finger touched it. The trigger, at least, was hers. The tip of one finger touched it. She strove no more for the rest. Up she stood to attention with the barrel beneath her breast. She would not risk their hearing. She would not strive again. For the road lay bare in the moonlight, blank and bare in the moonlight, and the blood of her veins in the moonlight throbbed to her love's refrain. Talot, 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 talot. Had they heard it? The horse hoofs ringing clear. Talot, 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 in the distance. Were they deaf they did not hear? Down the ribbon of moonlight, over the brow of the hill, the highwayman came riding, riding, riding. The redcoats looked to their priming. She stood up, straight and still. Talot, talot, in the frosty silence. Talot, talot, in the echoing night. Nearer he came, nearer. Her face was like a light. Her eyes grew wide for a moment. She drew one last deep breath. Then her finger moved in the moonlight. Her musket shattered the moonlight, shattered her breast in the moonlight, and warned him with her death. He turned. He spurred to the westward. He did not know who stood bowed with her head o'er the musket, drenched with her own red blood. Not till the dawn he heard it, and slowly blanched to hear how Bess, the landlord's daughter, the landlord's black-eyed daughter, had watched for her love in the moonlight and died in the darkness there. Back he spurred like a madman, shrieking a curse to the sky, with the white road smoking behind him and his rapier brandished high. Blood red were his spurs in the golden noon. Wine red was his velvet coat when they shot him down on the highway, down like a dog on the highway. And he lay in his blood on the highway with the bunch of lace at his throat. And still of a winter's night, they say, when the wind is in the trees, when the moon is a ghostly galleon tossed upon cloudy seas, when the road is a ribbon of moonlight over the purple moor, a highwayman comes riding, riding, riding. A highwayman comes riding up to the old inn door. Over the cobbles he clatters and clangs in the dark inn yard, and he taps with his whip on the shutters. But all is locked and barred. He whistles a tune to the window. And who should be waiting there but the landlord's black-eyed daughter, Bess, the landlord's daughter, plaiting a dark red love knot into her long black hair.
In concluding his program, Mr. Lindsley presents an episode from Sir Walter Scott's Marmion. Marmion has been sent by the King of England, Henry VIII, as envoy to the court of Scotland to complain of the depredations of the Scotch on the border between the two countries, and to warn James II not to interfere with Henry's continental affairs. Douglas, at the command of his sovereign, has been Marmion's host during his stay in Scotland. This particular incident begins with the departure of Marmion from Douglas Castle.
The train from out the castle drew, but Marmion stopped to bid adieu. Though something I might plain, he said, of cold respect to stranger guest sent hither by your king's behest, while in Tantallon's towers I stayed, part we in friendship from your land, and, noble earl, receive my hand. But Douglas round him drew his cloak, folded his arms, and thus he spoke. My manors, halls, and bowers shall still be open at my sovereign's will to each one whom he lists, howe'er unmeet to be the owner's peer. My castles are my kings alone, from turret to foundation stone. The hand of Douglas is his own, and never shall in friendly grasp the hand of such as Marmion clasp. Burned Marmion's swarthy cheek like fire, and shook his very frame for ire. And this to me? And 'twere not for thy hoary beard, such hand as Marmion's had not spared to cleave the Douglas head. And first I tell thee, haughty peer, he who does England's message hear, although the meanest in her state, may well proud Angus be thy mate. And Douglas, more I tell thee here, even in thy pitch of pride, here in thy hold, thy vassals near, I tell thee, thou art defied. If thou saidst I am not peer to any lord in Scotland here, Lowland or Highland, all on ear, Lord Angus, thou hast lied. On the Earl's cheek the flush of rage o'ercame the ashen hue of age. Fierce he broke forth. And darest thou then to beard the lion in his den, the Douglas in his hall, and hopest thou hence unscathed to go? No, by St. Bride of Bothwell, no. Up, drawbridge, grooms, what water, ho! Let the portcullis fall. Lord Marmion turned. Well was his need, and dashed the rowels in his steed. Like arrow through the archway sprung, the ponderous grate behind him rung. To pass, there was such scanty room, the bars descending raised his plume. The steed along the drawbridge flies just as it trembled on the rise. Not lighter does the swallow skim along the smooth lake's level brim. And when Lord Marmion reached his band, he halts and turns with clenched hand, and shout of loud defiance pours, and shook his gauntlet at the towers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard a program featuring Charles Frederick Lindsley, assisted by Wesley Turtelot at the organ.